Rome, 44 BCE. Julius Caesar, dictator for life, lies dead on the floor of the Senate House, stabbed 23 times by his own colleagues. The city holds its breath, teetering on the brink of chaos. Panic floods the streets as citizens cry for justice, while the senators who killed Caesar desperately plead for a return to peace and the old republic. In the midst of this turmoil stands a young man just 18 years old. He is thin, unassuming, and strangely calm. His name is Gaius Octavius, Caesar's great-nephew and, as he soon discovers, his adopted son and heir. The news reached him while he was studying in Greece. Everyone from his mother to seasoned military advisors warned him to stay away. To claim Caesar's inheritance was to paint a target on his back. But Octavian, as he now called himself, ignored them all. He sailed for Italy, determined to claim what was his. When he arrived, the powerful men of Rome laughed. A mere boy trying to play in the deadly game of Roman politics against hardened generals? It was absurd. But this boy carried three things they couldn't ignore: Caesar's legendary name, his immense fortune, and the aura of a divine legacy. The most powerful man in Rome was now Mark Antony, Caesar's loyal lieutenant, and a charismatic general who controlled the army. He saw himself as Caesar's natural successor and had no intention of stepping aside for a teenager. A tense rivalry immediately ignited between the fiery, experienced soldier and the cold, calculating boy. Octavian played his first move brilliantly. Using the fortune Caesar left him, he paid the promised bonuses to Caesar's veteran soldiers, winning their fierce loyalty when Antony hesitated. He began to speak with an authority that belied his age, his words measured, his resolve unshakable. The Senate, which feared Antony's ambition more than it dismissed Octavian's, saw an opportunity. They decided to use the boy as a weapon to cut Antony down to size. And so Rome plunged back into the abyss of civil war. On one side was Antony, declared an enemy of the state. On the other were the armies of the Senate, led by the consuls and the young Octavian. He marched under the banner of the Republic, but his true goal was singular: absolute power. At the Battle of Mutina in 43 BCE, Antony was defeated and forced to retreat. But victory came at a terrible cost. Both of the Republic's consuls were killed in the fighting. Suddenly, Octavian was the sole commander of a massive army, standing right at the gates of Rome. He demanded the Senate recognize his position and make him consul. They refused. His response was swift and decisive. He did what Caesar had done before him. He marched his legions on his own city. The boy who the Senate had planned to use and discard was now their master. Fear replaced arrogance in the Senate House as they granted him every demand. In a chilling echo of his great-uncle's famous clemency, Octavian pardoned his political enemies, a move not of mercy, but of cold, calculated strategy. Then, he did the unthinkable. He reached out to his rival, Mark Antony. Along with another powerful general, Lepidus, they met and formed a new alliance, the Second Triumvirate. They weren't restoring the Republic. They were carving it up like a conquest, dividing the Roman world between them. To fund their armies and eliminate all opposition, they brought back the proscription's death lists. Thousands were condemned, their property seized. Among them was Cicero, the Republic's greatest orator, whose head and hands were nailed to the speaker Jus Rostrum, in the Forum, a gruesome symbol of the death of free speech. To seal their pact, Antony married Octavian's beloved sister, Octavia. For a moment, a fragile peace settled over the broken republic, now ruled by three kings. Their next goal was vengeance. In 42 BCE, they marched east to confront Caesar's assassins, Brutus and Cassius. At the Battle of Philippi, the last defenders of the Republic were crushed. Brutus and Cassius took their own lives, and with them, the dream of the Roman Republic died forever. With their enemies gone, the victors divided the world again. Antony took the wealthy, glamorous East. Octavian was left with the chaotic West, including Italy. He faced riots, famine, and legions of angry veterans demanding the land they were promised. He was forced to confiscate farms across Italy, a brutal but necessary act to keep his army loyal, making him hated by the very people he sought to rule. Meanwhile, in Egypt, Antony met Queen Cleopatra. Their political alliance soon blossomed into a legendary love affair, and the scandalized reports that trickled back to Rome were a gift to Octavian. He launched a masterful propaganda campaign, painting Antony as a decadent Eastern-style monarch, bewitched by a foreign queen and estranged from his Roman virtues. The final straw came when Octavian illegally seized and published Antony's will. It allegedly confirmed Rome's worst fears. Antony planned to be buried in Alexandria, not Rome, and intended to make his children with Cleopatra rulers of Roman territories. Public outrage exploded. Octavian, positioning himself as the champion of Roman tradition, persuaded the Senate to declare war. But cleverly, they declared war not on Antony, a fellow Roman, but on Queen Cleopatra. The final epic confrontation was set. At the Battle of Actium in 31 BCE, the two largest fleets the world had ever seen clashed. But the battle turned when, for reasons still debated, Cleopatra's squadron fled. Antony, seeing her ship sail away, abandoned his fleet and his men to follow her. It was a total catastrophic defeat. Their cause lost, Antony and Cleopatra fled to Alexandria. As Octavian's legions closed in, the famous lovers died by their own hands, ending the 300-year-old dynasty of the Ptolemies. Octavian entered the city in triumph. At just 32 years old, every rival was dead, every army was his. The thin, quiet boy from the start of our story now stood alone, the undisputed master of the entire Roman world. But his greatest challenge still lay ahead: how to rule it. Welcome back to our series on Augustus, the man who shaped Rome. In our last episode, Octavian's victory at Actium left him the undisputed master of the Roman world. The clash of swords fell silent. The long, bloody civil wars were finally over. He returned to Rome not just as a conqueror, but as the wealthiest man alive, carrying the entire treasury of Egypt. The city, desperate for peace, hailed him as princeps, the first citizen. But Octavian was a shrewd student of history. He had seen how his great-uncle Julius Caesar was struck down for openly embracing power. So he cloaked his ambition in a veil of modesty, a political performance that would define his reign. In 27 BCE, in a masterful act of political theater, he stood before the Senate and offered to return all his powers to them, to restore the Republic. The senators, terrified of returning to chaos and civil war, begged him to stay. They not only refused his resignation but granted him new, unprecedented titles: Augustus, meaning the revered one, and Imperator, the supreme commander. On that day, the Roman Republic quietly died, and without a single coronation, the Roman Empire was born. Augustus became the first emperor without ever calling himself one. His first move was to secure his power. He reformed the army, making the legions loyal not to their generals, but directly to the emperor. He established permanent legions on the frontiers and created the elite Praetorian Guard, his personal protectors in Rome. He reorganized the provinces, placing imperial governors who answered only to him. With his authority secure, Augustus began one of history's greatest urban renewal projects. He launched a vast building program, transforming the city with magnificent temples, aqueducts, and forums. He famously boasted, "I found Rome a city of brick and left it a city of marble," but his reforms went deeper than stone. He introduced laws promoting traditional family values and morality. He created a professional civil service, a census for fair taxation, and a network of roads that connected the sprawling empire, fueling trade and communication. This wasn't just a political and military revolution. It was a cultural one. The Augustan age became a golden era for art and literature. Poets like Virgil, sponsored by the emperor, wrote epic poems like the Aeneid, which glorified Rome's divine destiny and, by extension, Augustus's rule. This period of peace and prosperity, known as the Pax Romana or Roman peace, would last for 2 centuries. But beneath this tranquil surface lay a new reality of absolute control. The Senate, once the heart of Roman power, became a ceremonial body, its members whispering their dissent but daring not to act. Augustus ruled through subtle influence and an iron grip, never wearing a crown but demanding total obedience. His closest ally was the brilliant general Agrippa, a man of immense talent who remained fiercely loyal and never sought the spotlight for himself. Yet, for all his public success, Augustus's private life was marked by tragedy. The question of who would succeed him haunted his later years. One by one, his chosen heirs died, forcing him to adopt his reluctant stepson, Tiberius. As old age approached, he withdrew from public life, quietly writing his life's achievements in a document for posterity, the Res Gesta Divi Augusti. His final words to his friends were fitting for a man who had played his role on the world stage so perfectly. "Have I played my part well? Then applaud as I exit." In 14 CE, at the age of 75, Augustus died peacefully. Rome mourned not just a leader, but the end of an era. The Senate officially declared him a god, Divus Augustus, and his name became a sacred title for all future emperors. The empire he meticulously built would endure for centuries. His roads, his laws, and his model of governance became the blueprint for rulers for 1,000 years. Augustus transformed the chaos of conquest into a lasting civilization. He took a city tearing itself apart and made it the heart of the ancient world. He was not a king, not a dictator in name, but something more. He was the architect of an empire, the man who became Rome itself. Thanks for joining us on this journey through the life of Rome's first emperor. If you found this story as fascinating as we do, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive into history. See you next time.